Hello YouTube, Vlogger Rants here, and today is the second video of my series giving my thoughts on Kyle Kulinski's appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast. Part 2 is stuff on Joe and Kyle both talk about from about 13.5 minutes in to about 20 minutes in. With all of that out of the way, let's begin.
You know, we were talking about this before the podcast, that like what I try to do is have conversations with everyone. I try to have conversations with nutty people like Alex Jones. I try to have conversations with rational people like Sam Harris. I try to have conversations with all kinds of people, but without fail, every time I have a left-wing person on, I'm some cuck left-wing.
Yeah,
you know,
that's going to happen, sure.
And every time I have a right-wing person on, I'm some alt-right Nazi apologist. It's like this weird inclination we have to try to label and categorize people, and I try to resist those labels as much as humanly possible.
I find it absolutely amazing that Joe Rogan, by one group of people, can be a left-wing beta cuck, and by another group of people, an alt-right Nazi apologist at the same time, just because he talks to both left-wingers and right-wingers. Usually it's the extremes of both sides of the political spectrum that do this sort of thing. Oh, there's another way to say it. Engage in identity politics. That's so ironic. The right always rails against left-wing identity politics, and yet they do it all the time. In fact, I think they're actually the original PC warriors.
Well, I feel like what you're really good at is you can have on people who disagree completely on stuff, but you'll kind of find a nugget of agreement in the conversation with that person, and then you can expand on that, and you can end up having a very nice conversation. And you never really bring anybody on to try to like browbeat them and tell them that they're wrong on this issue or that issue. You know what I mean?
I have no desire to do that. I mean, look, I've had a lot of arguments in my life, and I don't like them. I don't think they're beneficial. I mean, I think debate is good, but every time I've ever been in an argument with someone, like a real argument, I always come out of it feeling gross.
Yeah, that has a tendency to happen, especially those morons who yell, "Fact!" after they've just said something retarded.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are times in life where arguments are necessary. There's times in life where you're just faced with aggression or conflict, and you have to do something about it. You have to meet it head on. There are times in life like that. But whenever you can avoid that, do. And I think a lot of what arguments are, and I've failed at this in my life many times, but a lot of what arguments are is the way you've reacted to the thoughts and the expression that another person has.
Unfortunately, that is usually the case. You meet aggression with aggression. I've done that. You watching this video probably have done that at some point. And the majority of the time it's not fun, especially when you're arguing with what can really amount to a brick wall.
And if you just reacted a different way, or approached it in a different manner, or took it into consideration a little bit more before you responded, I think the conversation could have gone another way.
Unfortunately, that isn't always the case. You can be totally civil with somebody and they can still be ranting and raving non-stop. I've seen that happen a couple of times, and it's facepalm worthy.
And I think I'm learning how to do that more and more as I get better at podcasting, get better at conversations, learning how to just settle someone down, and learning how to genuinely be a nice person. So where I don't want to like insult anybody. I don't want to be in a disagreement with someone. I want to discuss ideas.
Sure.
Good plan, and from what I've seen, which admittedly hasn't been that much, he does that rather well, so credit to Joe.
Who was that skeptic guy from years back that he put you on a list of like top 10 conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. And
Brian Dunning.
And then I remember watching that clip, and it was so frustrating when you guys were going back and forth, because you would say, I think you were talking about the 9/11 thing, and you're like, I'm 100% not saying it was a conspiracy. I'm saying it looked like the building came down in a controlled demolition. Those are two very different things. It's one thing to say, I believe it's a conspiracy. It's another thing to say, the way it came down looked like it was a controlled demolition. But he kept insisting and trying to tell you what you believe.
Oh, I absolutely hate it when people put words in your mouth and keep insisting that you said something that you didn't say. That is very frustrating. Usually it's done by people who don't have an actual argument, so they resort to straw manning instead.
As you're sitting across from him and you're like, no, I don't believe that.
He was trying to tell me what I was saying,
right,
even though it was very clear. Okay, how do I say this? I don't think Brian is a bad guy. I don't think his brain works correctly. I'm being honest. I think there's a real problem there. And when he does these videos, he sounds like a strip club DJ.
Is it bad that I laughed a little when he said, "Sounds like a strip club DJ"?
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I've never seen his original
there's
content.
a way that people talk. Well, they take on an effective. There's a way.
I hate that.
But that thing is done by people that are trying to achieve a desired result. Like, it's not that they're themselves talking about a very specific thing. It's that they are trying to put on an air of intellectual authority. And, he talks of himself as a science writer, whatever that is.
Well, I assume, Joe, that he means he either writes for scientific journals or he writes about science in, say, a more layman's magazine, something like National Geographic. By the way, I've never heard of the guy Joe's talking about, so I can't comment on the veracity of what Joe Rogan's saying.
Like, I don't hate that guy. I'm not mad at him. The whole thing was kind of foolish, and it was very damaging to him, and he wound up going to jail afterwards.
Really?
Yeah, not because of that, but because of something that he did. He was involved in some sort of a scam with, was it Amazon or Google? eBay, that's right. He was involved in some sort of a scam where he had embedded cookies. He would go to his site, made it look like when you were buying things online that you had gone through his site first, when in fact you hadn't. There was just a cookie that was embedded, something along those lines. Whatever it was illegal, and he wound up going to jail.
That was a pretty scumbag thing to do, honestly. I'm glad he got to wind up in jail for that.
So, and even his defense of that, it's like, I think there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that something is, but there's a spark plug that's not screwed in all the way. There's something wrong.
Well, speaking of fake personas, I feel like that's the worst when it comes to politics.
Well, it can be a double-edged sword, honestly. Sometimes it's awesome when people play up a bit for the camera. TJ Kirk does it, for instance. But other times, it's really bad and you can tell it's fake. There's a difference between playing yourself up and presenting a totally fake persona.
Yes.
And I do feel like there's very, 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 very few upsides of Trump, in my opinion. But one of the upsides of Trump is that he did kind of break the mold in terms of what was viewed as the right way to communicate as a politician. Because before him, you had all these very measured people who had the proper posture and they spoke with their thumb pointed down because they don't want to be too strong with their finger pointing at you like that.
Right,
so,
or a fist.
And then he comes along and he's obviously shooting from the hip and he clearly has no filter and he's tripping over his words. Tremendous, believe me. He's unnecessarily punchy and short with his sentences.
I agree. It's about the only good thing about Donald Trump is that he's a break from the robot politicians. This isn't just an issue in the US, it's a problem in the Western world. It can be very annoying at times, especially when the only thing they do is constantly attack the other side.
And I remember there was a report that came out that said he communicates, I think it was like a 6th or 7th grade level or something like that.
4th grade level. I know you cover tons of stories, Carl, but surely you should remember that Donald Trump speaks at a 4th grade level. It's even lower than you said. And in some ways, that is when he does his things, it gets even better. It resonates even better with voters.
And everybody in the media was mocking it. And I did a segment where I said, you guys are mocking, and that's a terrible idea, because guess what? The way he's speaking, even though it sounds stupid, it's going to pierce through. Like, you know how when some people talk, it's hard, you have to focus to pay attention, to listen to where they're going with it, and it's hard. And then there's other people who talk, and it's like, you just get it. It's immediately right in your brain.
Right.
And it doesn't matter, agree or disagree with the substance of what that person is saying, you know when somebody's an effective communicator. And when he was out there on the campaign trail, and he was, for example, campaigning in the Rust Belt, where Hillary Clinton did not go,
right.
And he was like, NAFTA's terrible. They shipped out all your jobs. It was unbelievably terrible. Believe me, let me just tell you. What I'm going to do, I'm going to keep your jobs here. It's going to be unbelievable. Believe me.
That's pretty good.
It is good, right? I do a pretty good Trump. People tell me
The
that.
voice is a little off, but the mannerisms are excellent.
I love it when Carl does his impressions, whether it's Donald Trump, me, I'm Ted Cruz, me, or whoever. He usually nails it. The mannerisms sell it even better. Pat Robertson's another one he does a pretty good job with.
So,
how about the fucking thing he did recently where he said that he would have gone into the school when the school shooting was going on? He would have run in there even if he didn't have a gun.
yeah, it's like,
Could you
I was
fucking
with him
imagine any other
shitting on the
president
cop.
saying that?
You can't. I was with him when he was like, listen, the cop should have gone in. Everybody's like, yeah, of course the cop should have gone in. Yeah, but then he has to gratuitously take it so much further. Then he goes, I would have gone in. And then he adds, without a weapon. Like, now everybody knows you're just full of shit.
Imagine if he was there. Imagine if he was there. Like, if Trump just happened to be there giving a speech at the school when a school shooting started, and he didn't do anything. He just stood on the outside.
We know he would have. It's a guarantee.
That's absolutely what he would have done. This is a guy who skipped Vietnam because of bone spurs in his foot, whatever that means. And yet he's not only attacking the cops for not going in, he goes so far beyond to claim that he would have rushed into the school without a weapon, which he wouldn't have. It's just insanely stupid what he said there, and it totally discredits anything he said. I think I'll leave it there for today. There's a long way to go, and I think there's a decent gap before I start giving more of my thoughts on this discussion. Keep an eye out for part 3, which will hopefully go up tomorrow. Please rate, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a great day, everyone.